Welcome to Expert Subjects Weekly Podcast. Today we're going to be focusing on setting and description. I'm going to first read to you from Stephen King's book on writing. This is a book that I spoke about earlier as a great tool for writers, and it's good for anyone writing fiction or nonfiction. Description is what makes the reader a sensory participant in the story. Good description is a learned skill, one of the prime reasons why you cannot succeed unless you read a lot and write a lot. It's not just a question of how to, you see. It's also a question of how much to. Reading will help you answer how much, and only reams of writing will help you with the how. You can learn only by doing. Description begins with the visualization of what it is you want the reader to experience. It ends with your translating what you see in your mind into words on the page. It's far from easy. As I've said, we've all heard someone say, "Man, it was so great," or "so horrible, strange, funny." I just can't describe it. If you want to be a successful writer, you must be able to describe it, and in a way that will cause your reader to prickle with recognition. If you can do this, you'll be paid for your labors, and deservedly so. If you can't, you're going to collect a lot of rejection slips and perhaps explore a career in the fascinating world of telemarketing. Thin description leaves the reader feeling bewildered and nearsighted. Over-description buries him or her in details and images. The trick is to find a happy medium. It's also important to know what to describe and what can be left alone while you get on with your main job, which is telling a story. So that's from Stephen King's book. He goes on, so you could read on further if you have your own copy. If not, you can get a copy from Amazon. Next, I'm going to read to you from How to Breathe Underwater by Julie Oringer. And this is from a story entitled Pilgrims. And I think she does a really excellent job at conveying place through details. The wooden deck outside was cluttered with tinker toys and clay flower pots and little golden books. Ella heard children screaming and laughing nearby. As she and Benjamin moved to the edge of the deck, there was a rustle in the bushes, and a skinny boy leaped out and pointed a suction cup arrow at them. He stood there breathing hard, his hair full of leaves, his chest bare. "You're on duty," he said. "Me?" Benjamin said. "Yes, you, both of you." The boy motioned them off the porch with his arrow and took them around the side of the house. There, built into the side of a sprawling oak, was the biggest, most sophisticated treehouse Ella had ever seen. There were tiny rooms of sagging plywood and rope ladders hanging down from doors, and a telescope and a fireman's pole and a red net full of leaves. From one wide platform, almost as high as the top of the house, it seemed you could jump down onto a huge trampoline. Even higher was a kind of crow's nest, a little circular platform built around the trunk. A red-painted sign on the railing read, "Dagner." Ella could hear the other children screaming, but she couldn't see them. A collie dog barked crazily, staring up at the tree. "Take off your socks, that's an order," the skinny boy said. Benjamin glanced at Ella. Ella shrugged. It seemed ridiculous to walk around outside in socks. She bent and peeled off her anklets. Benjamin carefully removed his pilgrim buckles and put them in his pocket, then sat down and took off his socks. The skinny boy grabbed the socks from their hands and tucked them into the waistband of his shorts. The mud was thick and cold between Ella's toes, and pecan shells bit her feet as the boy herded them toward the treehouse. He prodded Ella toward a ladder of prickly-looking rope. When she stepped onto the first rung, the ladder swung toward the tree and her toes banged against the trunk. The skinny boy laughed. "Go on," he said. "Hurry up and no whining." The rope burned her hands and feet as she ascended. The ladder seemed to go on forever. Ben followed below, making the rope buck and sway as they climbed. At the top, there was a small square opening, and Ella thrust both her arms inside and pulled herself into a dark coop. As she stood, her head knocked against something dangling from the ceiling on a length of string. It was a bird's skull, no bigger than a walnut. Dozens of others hung from the ceiling around her. Benjamin huddled at her side. "Sick," he said. So again, that's How to Breathe Underwater. And now, just to show you that I try to practice what I preach, although my children may disagree, I'm going to read to you from Inheriting Irises and show you how I try and convey setting for the reader. When Jane's body is taken away, the world seems still. A calm settles over the farmhouse, and like a soft fog, seeps inside. Gracie wanders with arms outstretched as if she needs to feel her way. It's as though she sees Jane's things for the first time. It is as though she will be seeing them for the last time. The mineral collection Jane had taken decades to assemble glints in the window light. Gracie traces the fossil's delicate imprint, the skeletal lines of some ancient creature that died long ago, but not without leaving its mark. She grasps a geode in her palm like a piece of fruit turned to stone and tilts it into the sun. Jane could crack open some plain-looking rock and find its beauty within. Gracie is drawn to 3 warri stones sitting on the windowsill. They are black as ebony with desert-colored veins, tumbled smooth but not without texture. Jane had long ago taught her the magic of these stones. Gracie drops them one by one into her deep overall pocket and finds solace in knowing there's one for Jack, one for her baby, and one for herself. Jane's granddaughter hesitates before the mirrors, wondering if they should be shrouded, listens to the clocks and contemplates silencing their rhythmic pulses. But she wants these reminders. She learned to love her reflection in these old mirrors, softened with a wash of silvered mercury, rippled like water. She learned to tell time from these beating clocks, nestled on Jane's lap, counting the minutes together. So instead, she brews water in the cast iron kettle and watches her tea steep. It would be nice not to drink alone. Gracie clasps her grandmother's favorite cup, some Potter had shaped with curved hands and glazed teal. She imagines the impression of Jane's handprint on the handle, the impression of her lips kissed into the rim from all the times she cradled this cup and sipped her milky tea. Gracie roams the house. She hovers in the hallway before the linen closet. You need a strong yank to get the doors open in the summer, and when it has been especially damp, only a prying finger will do. Gracie presses her face to the stiff sheets. They smell like her grandmother, a combination of the outdoors and the powdered soap she always used. She remembers crouching in the wicker laundry basket, a boat floating in the grassy sea. Jane would take the white bed sheets and whip them into the air like sails. The sun's glare in the sheets often forced Gracie to squint and shield her eyes. Without sight, there was only joyful humming, the feel of warm hands tousling her hair as she passed back and forth, and the presence of the sun. So there you have some examples of how to do setting and how to use details in your description. This week on Expert Subjects, you can also read a little bit more about the same subject, and this could be applied to short stories as well as novellas, novels, and even nonfiction. So until next week, thank you for joining us on Expert Subjects.